Checking my screen. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Just on my phone sharing. Sorry, just bear with me. So, yeah, over a year ago, a couple of years ago, I did a series of videos on Streets UK channel to do with history. And I started off with Mary Seacole. And what I was doing, I was comparing historical figures with my dad. That's what I was doing. And going through what they did. But, I mean, the tale of Mary Seacole, very interesting. And you've got lots of prominent people supporting her story and that. And it's just not true. Good evening. It's just not true. I mean, I've been to schools and I've been to libraries. I've read a few passages out of books here and there to do with Mary Seacole, but there's dozens of books that show our kids. And one of them, you'll get this. She was a pioneer nurse. That's what they said. And it shows her wearing a nurse's uniform. But unfortunately, she was never a nurse. She was born in 1805, Jamaica, and her mum was a doctoress, so backyard medicine. Dad was Scottish, white Scottish, and mum Jamaican, and she classed herself as a Creole. So she's learning off her mum about herbal medicine and backyard medicine and that. And then, so, I mean, she travelled to Panama and worked with cholera. But, you know, pioneer nurse, nothing's ever said that she used, at that time, nursing across the world was crap. We didn't have it good. It wasn't until she went to the Crimea, and it was Florence Nightingale who started to change the way things nursing is. If you know anything about your history, you'll know that a lot of the stuff they do in hospitals now is related directly back to Florence Nightingale, who came back to England after the Crimea War and set up an hospital and then started training nurses. And at that time, we were the best in the world, the 1900s. We were the best in the world. And she did that and a lot of stuff. But so I want you to go through and look at some Mary Seacole stuff, and let's find a video. Oh, we'll just go on. We'll just get something up. So Mary Seacole information, and I search this as a site that tells you about challenging information. Let me get it on the screen. Faking history. This picture shows Mary Seacole as a young nurse in a nurse's uniform. She would never wore one, as she was never a nurse. Now, some of the stories that you'll get these days, and if you look at the title, Rewriting British History and putting racism, bringing racism in where it's not. And what they say, this is what a lot of books say and a lot of black people will say. No, when she went to the army to apply as a nurse, they never let her in because she was black. This is what they say. But that was not true. By the time she went to the Crimea, she was nearly 50 years old and had any kind of training, any kind of proper training. Even though nursing was in its infancy then, she never had any kind of training. She was just a doctoress. And she was nearly 50 years old. So you just wouldn't, because Crimea was 1853, charge of the Light Brigade and all that. And she was born in 1805. So she was well over 40. But she never went to the army for an interview. She never went. She wanted to go over, but not as a nurse. She wanted to go over because she's an entrepreneur. Her mum had a hotel, and she was in England trying to get a stake on a gold mine when she went to the Crimea. She was an entrepreneur. She wasn't going to go over and just do nursing all the time. And she had like an officer's mess and was selling. And you know, in the books it says she went to the battle lines and healed all the you know, like went down and healed the soldiers on the front line. She was behind the line. She was on the safe side, but an officer's mess. There's loads of information about that online. Let's look at one. Hospital nurse fake. Here, Mrs. Seacole is shown nursing a soldier in hospital, which she never did, nor did she ever wear a hospital uniform. She was a businesswoman with a restaurant bar, not a nurse. Another fake Seacole is wearing a nurse's uniform like that worn later by Nightingale nurses, but she never wore a uniform as she was not a nurse. And they've changed all the books our kids have now. All the books our kids have show that false history for whatever reason. You know, she might have been a nice person, great stuff, but she wasn't a pioneer of anything. She never came up with any ways or instructions to do anything. She never did anything like that. She was a restaurateur, an entrepreneur. There's loads of stuff, but it's funny how everyone takes it that's what she did without doing any kind of basic research. If you just do basic research, you'll find everything that I'm saying is true. I mean, coming up in my history series, David Ossologa, OBE. He's a professor of history at Manchester, and he does the same. He says fake news. He says things. He goes on that black people have been around since the Roman times. Well, they haven't actually. In what he says is that the people on the Hadrian's Wall were African. But what he's not telling you is that there was Moroccan Moors, Barbers. That's where they were. That's where they were from. So they're not sub-Saharan black. They're more like looking like Arabs. Well, it don't tell you all this. He mentions Mary Seacole, pioneer nurse. He goes on about the 1919 race riots in Liverpool, where Charles Wotton got chased into off a pier, and he says it's the first British lynching. That's what he says. But what he doesn't tell you that Charles Wotton and his mates tried to kill 3 policemen. That's what he doesn't tell you. He doesn't tell you how violent these people were before he got chased. Obviously, he shouldn't have been chased off a pier and left to drown. But, you know, if you're not going to tell all the history, why do you tell any at all? This is a guy who was prevalent in the Colston statue thing coming down. He's a race baiter, and his base is at Manchester University. And I will be going to Manchester University. As the NHPUK, besides housing and being a political party, I am so against the change and the rewriting of history and the colonization of British history, helped by people like David Ossologa. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Andy Red Volvo. I hope you're all right, mate. Not seen you on for a bit. Yes, Paul Allen. Rose Cup, thank you. Yes, Arlene. I'm here. Yes, Sally. He tells a load of untruths and doesn't say enough. He doesn't do proper research, and it's accepted. So in another 10, 20 years, no one's going to know any kind of decent British history. There's going to be none left. It's going to be colonized. So Mary Seacole, all in all, she was an entrepreneur, a businesswoman. She never did anything under fire. She might have heard of shells if she was a few miles away, but she was never on the front lines. She had an officer's mess. And if you knew the army back then, the officers didn't hang around with the normal people. Nursing people, well, a thing was a restaurant. I wouldn't say it was nursing. She sold a lot of things. She made money. She might have given, if an officer were injured, you know, she might have given him some remedy of hers, but it's not She didn't have any hospital beds or anything like that. And all the books you see in a blue nurse's uniform leaning over a bed, but she was never a nurse. She never applied to the army to be a nurse. She wanted to go over, but not as a nurse. I have to get that exactly straight. But, you know, I'm going to call out these people. David Ossologa blocked me. The very first time I called out his fake history, he's blocked me. So I don't have any contact with him on Twitter or anything. But I have ordered his book, Black and British, and I've ordered another book by Eddie Reno Lodge called Why Am I No Longer Talking to White People About Race? Both books are not informative enough. They're not factual. They've distorted the facts. But we'll go into this more. There's the Ivory Bangle lady. They're claiming that there was black people who built Hadrian's Wall, which is just not true. The Ivory Bangle lady was black, which is not true. And, you know, why did he have to do this? Why did he have to do this? You know, if you want to honour someone for doing a decent thing, why do you have to change history? Why do you have to be a race baiter? So, honestly, you know, and your kids are in school reading these books now. This Black and British is a bit... When you go in a school library, that's the first book you see. Black and British, David Ossologa. And there's a BBC... Let me just get the BBC video up. You'll understand what I mean about brainwashing people. You no wonder black people are so hate the establishment and all that after these things you see.
In British history is the place of black.
Right, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes.
People in British history is sometimes thought of as a story that begins with the arrival of the Windrush. In reality, the Windrush is just one chapter in a much longer history. Black people have been living in this country for centuries, and the story of the black presence in the United Kingdom goes back all the way to Roman times. This is old history, the history that you don't learn at school. When I was 16, I went into a bookshop and I bought this book, Staying Power by Peter Fryer. And to black British people of my generation, this was the most important book in the world. Because what it did was it showed us that we weren't new arrivals, but that we were part of a longer, deeper history that went back centuries. Because we're not telling key moments in British history, whole aspects of the story of Britain are simply being left out of the picture. And I think it's time that changed. That phrase, black British, that we're really used to today, I never heard that when I was growing up. To be black and to be British, well, they were two separate things. You couldn't really be both. To be black is not really to be British. And it was the history, it was books like Staying Power by Peter Fryer that showed me that there'd always been black British.
Black British history is so diverse. It's just kind of a shame that at a young age you can't really participate and celebrate in your identity. How can you not want to learn about your past because you can't go forward without understanding your past?
When I talk to young black people, what they tell me is that they are as desperate as I was when I was their age to learn more about the longer history of the black presence in Britain, and that history is still not being taught to them at school.
When it came to learning about black history, it was mainly pumped within a month of something that should have been a year consistently. And it was kind of ranging from Mary Seacole to Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King.
Well, a lot of people
ranging from Mary Seacole, Nelson Mandela, and Martin Luther King. Just showed you Mary Seacole's false. She wasn't a nurse. She wasn't a pioneer of anything. South Africa, Nelson Mandela group, they were as a terrorist group. They killed people. They killed people. The necklace murders were they killed black people for not siding with them. How can anyone revere people who were part of that organization? All right, there was fighting for apartheid. I get it, but you know you've lost when you kill your own people, your own black people, by throwing tires round and setting them alight. The necklace murders, and Nelson Mandela's wife was involved in that. Yet there's documentaries of her bigging her up like she's some. It says she were bad in it, but bigging her up like it's a historical figure that we should follow. No, we shouldn't. We shouldn't follow them kind of people because they're never ever going to solve anything. They might solve something in the short run by killing someone, but it's never going to solve the issue in a long term. Let's carry on.
What I taught at school are the biographies of individual black people. And there's lots of good stuff that comes out of that. It's really great that kids now learn about Mary Seacole and they learn about Walter Tull. That's great, and I haven't got a problem with it. But if you only do that, what you find is you just create these isolated black characters. And what you don't learn about are the forces that led Britain to interact with Africa, interact with Africans. You don't learn about just how important the sugar slavery economy was in the 17th and 18th and early 19th centuries. We don't learn that Britain's relationship with the United States, economic relationship after the American War of Independence and right up to the Civil War, is founded on cotton, and that cotton is produced by African Americans, enslaved African Americans.
We're kind of told in a way that these things didn't happen in the UK, and we're told that certain things like this happened within America. And it wasn't on our soil, and we treated black people great and well, and we provided all these things for them. When in reality, there was no difference.
It's great that we learn today about the biographies of individual black figures from the past, and those stories were important to me when I was growing up. But what we seem still to neglect are exploring other issues, things like the development of racial thinking in the 18th and 19th centuries, or the centrality of slavery to the British economy. Black history is more than just biographies. It is fundamental to understanding British history because it is a fundamental part of British history.
A fundamental part of British history? No, it wasn't. Anglo-Saxon is a blood here, and if I want to give my honest thing of when we had a big black presence in the United Kingdom was the Windrush. Before then, we had scatterings of black people, no decent communities, no big communities, not like full towns or anything. What you did find was a lot of black people around the coast at the ports because there were sailors and things like that. But you never found, there wasn't any towns in England in the 18th, in the beginning of the 19th century where there was a full town of black people. It just wasn't like that. It just wasn't like, no matter what they tell you, it just wasn't like that. And, just people's normal history, you'll be able to find that out. But it just wasn't like that. But they don't say that, they don't tell you. He never once says where these communities was, but he says there was thousands of black people in the UK. But he never don't say that they were a lot of them were at the coast, at the port areas, Liverpool. Liverpool's a big place where a black presence was because of sailing and stuff like that. Obviously, slave owners as well. There was some slave owners in Liverpool who were black. Believe it or not, honestly, it's all documented stuff. This Bristol as well. Another port was Bristol, but there wasn't any towns of black people. He's making it out like well, he says we've been here since Roman times, but we haven't. We haven't. There was a black trumpeter.
I don't know if this whole exclusionary history is like a nod to empire, laziness, or they just don't really care about black people.
So her attitude, laziness care. They don't really care about black people. Well, you're being lied to start off with, love. You're being lied to. You're being given a false picture of history already. So obviously you're going to feel resentment. And this is what is bred into people, this kind of resentment, certainly against white people, because of things like this. Critical race theory at universities, and it's wrong.
People of colour, working class, or women in general. I just don't know.
What the new science is proving is that
Afro-Romans, making it sound like they were from Africa. They weren't. They weren't. These guys were barbers, more than likely from the Moroccan coast, and the people there have lived on their own for years and years. And they're not black. They're not sub-Saharan black. They're nothing like sub-Saharan black. They're more like looking Arab people. That's who was that, the thingy. He says a lot of words like Afro-Romans, making you think, oh, Afro-African. You know, because obviously the mild-mannered, indoctrinated, idiotic, stupid cunts will think that. You know what I mean? But it goes on all the way through. But the worst part's coming up.
Living in Britain. There are people who find it challenging, even threatening, that black people have been in Britain.
No, I don't find it challenging or threatening, David Osselog. I just find it false that you have the gall to set these things when it's obviously false and it's not true. You know what I mean? You cleverly hide your words. Yeah, I think you were bullied. You were as a little fat kid at school and you're bullied, and this is why you've come out like this. And you weren't just bullied. You weren't bullied off white people. You were bullied off black people. That's what you were. You were bullied off your own people, own black people, or people of colour, and then you've turned out like this. But the worst part of this little sketch video is coming up now.
There are people who feel the need, when this is discussed online, to go on Twitter, to go on social media and discredit these ideas. There are people who would rather deny the facts than confront the quite simple, uncontroversial, in my view, reality, is that Britain was part of the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire was multiracial.
Right, come on, David Osseloga, get me on your show. Get me on your show, because I can prove that you're wrong. We're not denying. We don't feel uncomfortable or frightened or anything like that. We're sick of your race baiting bullshit. That's what we're sick of, and we're sick of it, man. We're absolutely sick of it. He's going on about the Ivory Bangle lady. So she was found, and she had an ivory bangle on her. And what they said, they did a pseudoscience of where they look at the nose and measure the head and all that, which is a racist thing to do anyway. She's from Africa, and because she's got the ivory bangle, means she's definitely from Africa. So it was all out in the papers and all that lot. It was all glorious everywhere. 2014. So the local people, the local museum in the area where they found this, they sent off DNA. They sent off samples of this ivory bangle lady to be DNA tested. And she's from Cyprus. She's from Cyprus through DNA testing. BBC don't say nothing. David Osseloga hasn't done a rebuttal video. And this is the truth that everybody goes on, when in fact it isn't. And just let me, I always say this, but you haven't put any links up, John. You're talking shit. Well, let me just get the link to the let me just get the link. So there's ivory bangle, Roman Britain, ivory bangle lady. Oh yeah, first black person and all that lot. Let me just find everything. Everything says that, like she was black, she was African and all that lot. It's just not true. I can't find it. Everything, every link you look at, ethnicity, African. It just isn't. It's just not so. Honestly, just not everywhere it says it. But so what happened is they did a DNA test that the people where it came from, and it was false. I will find it for you. Just one minute. I know that I do put them links up and all that lot. You know I do. You all know I do it. But I just feel that sometimes I have to do it again, even though I've put it up 100 goddamn times. Honestly, I just feel like I have to do it again. While I'm here, I'm just going to big up History Debunks channel. That's who I'm looking for now. It's on all the Black history things everywhere, but she's from Cyprus.
So you want to do this, you've come to the right place.
So I just want to big up History Debunks channel. And if you're into knowing how things are real and false, that's a channel you follow. He's a historian. He writes articles for newspapers. He's written shitloads of books. This guy is Mr. History. And he calls it out all the time. And here it is. I'll just get you the link. Obviously, the BBC run on it like mad, don't they? Wait, let me just... So even though the Ivory Bangle lady is African everywhere else, no one tells you the truth. No one tells you that she's from Cyprus. The DNA results, which indicate a Southern European lineage, most likely from Cyprus. So she wasn't a black, sub-Saharan black person. So, you know, he lies, and he's never said, when you watch his video, he never says properly. But anyway, the last thing I want to show you before shopping hasn't even turned up yet. That's bad. So so St. Thomas's Hospital, Mary Seacole's got a plaque there. She never even went to the hospital, and this is the one that Florence Nightingale set up when she came back from the Crimea. So I mean, this is how influential Florence Nightingale was in the Crimea. It was the first war where the army took note of injuries and all that more than any other war that they'd ever had. Yeah. And they noticed a reduction in infections killing people by the end of the war, which was due to the stuff that Florence Nightingale did there. But it was still in its infancy, nursing, so they still did things that were wrong, and people probably died who shouldn't have done. But the army noted a reduced figure in these infections because of the stuff that Florence Nightingale set up, the procedures she set up. She came over and started the first proper nurses training hospital, which was St. Thomas's. And all you washing hands on COVID, where do you think washing hands comes from when you're in the nursing and stuff like that? And if you're in any kind of food production in the UK, same there. You go into the food production area and clean stuff, washed hands and stuff like that. I've worked in food production, so I should know. And all these things come from Florence Nightingale from the time she spent in the Crimea. So pioneer nurse, no, Mercy-Co didn't pioneer any kind of ways to do things. She never pioneered anything to do with washing your hands or an isolated room and all that lot. She never wore a nurse's uniform because she never applied to be a nurse. And even if she did, would they have hired somebody with no kind of training except for she said she was a backyard medicine woman who still used mercury and things like that, even though the Europeans were using mercury. And she was well into her 40s, you know what I mean? So she just wouldn't have been hired anyway. But, and in a lot of books you'll see about her, they will say in the books, they'll say that when she went to the army and got knocked back, it was because of the colour of her skin, bringing racism into it. She never applied to be a nurse, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I even just watched another History Channel and he was saying bullshit things about her. You just couldn't make it up. But this is what we're on. And you know, NHP UK, I vowed to fight against these things. I don't know other, you know, like what other people are going to be doing. But as soon as I'm a counsellor, I'm going in them schools and checking out the books. I'll be writing to Ofsted. I would say, calling out fake history. Why are you teaching our kids fake history? That's what I'll be doing. They might cancel me. They might try and cancel me, but what cancel me for telling them the truth? That's what I mean. You know what I mean? So, you know, and I don't know any other party, who are going to do these kind of things. Remember, we go on about the safety of our children and how our kids are getting raped when they're so young and they're so vulnerable. Well, they're vulnerable with this backwards ideology and bringing racism in where it's not needed, right? They're influenced by this. So we should be giving just as much thought about protecting kids from paedophilia than protecting them in the school. You know what I mean? No, but I don't know any other party, left or right, who are going to tackle these things. Well, I am, and I like my history. I'm going to tackle these, and I can tackle them at a basic level, at a local council level, by getting into the libraries and looking what they're teaching our kids. Like, so, you know, the NHP UK were a lot different. We're a lot different. We're a lot different than other parties. Other parties are just the other parties are just grifting to get there. But you know, I've got a purpose, I've got a purpose, and if I show as much purpose and compassion as I do against child abuse, then the school libraries, then I'll make a big change in Oldham. You know what I mean? And that's how I want to make the change, from that level. You know what I mean? We should, just because we're feared for our kids, vulnerable girls being gang raped by the tens of thousands in the UK, then we should be feared of them learning shit stuff at school. And that video, David Osloga's, a black guy comes on and starts talking about the 1919 race riots. You can hear him getting angry. So he's been taught a false history. He's getting angry, and then he'll just go out and stab somebody. You know, just stab some white dude. There's never going to be any kind of cohesion in this country with people like David Osloga, Eddie Reno Lodge, even Alison Hammond, the chubby brown woman off I'm a Celebrity. Even she says all the Mercy-Co facts. You know, pioneering her. She never pioneered anything. She never worked on the front lines. She never did. She worked in an officer's mess, because them are the only kind of people who could afford the shots of brandy or whatever that she had for them, and her cakes that she made. She was a nice person, sounds like. She was an entrepreneur, but she was no pioneer of anything. And if you've got a problem, anyone's got a problem with me saying any of that, please email me. Please email me. And we'll go through the facts. We'll look more deeply into it. We'll have a debate online about it. But, you know, I want somebody to come forward and, you know, well, you're lying. You're a racist. Well, show me why I'm lying and show me where I'm a racist. That's what I'll say to him. Or a politically correct word. But that's Mercy-Co. I mentioned David Osloga. We'll go more into him next time. But, you know, I'm concerned about gang rape of our kids, but I'm also concerned about what they're learning at school. Obviously, we're all concerned about gender identity, but we've got to look at the library. our libraries and what they're reading in our libraries, which are telling a false history. You ask anybody about Charles Wotton in Liverpool, oh yeah, he was murdered, first British lynching. But what they never said, they never tell you that him and his mates tried murdering 3 policemen. There is a bit of a story. They went to a bar. They had a bit of a beef with some white Scandinavians. They've returned to the bar, then kicked off a bit harder, brought out a knife or something, a couple of slashes, I think. Then when they've gone, the police have gone looking for them. And then they tried to murder 3 policemen before he was chased off the docks. You know what I mean? Honestly, you just couldn't make it up, but they make it. They have to bring political correctness in at every angle to make everything look bad. And this guy's an OBE, that David Ossologa's got an OBE or something. Award-winning historian. Honestly, award-winning. I'm furious, me. Furious. This is in Manchester as well, this. It's in Manchester. I'm absolutely furious. But, I mean, going forward is get down to Manchester University and talk to people outside the university about this guy. Excuse me, are you in the history class? Do you know anything about Mary Seacole? What did she pioneer? These are the kind of questions I'd ask them. Honestly, you just couldn't make it up. And I hate him. I hate him passionately because he's just a liar and a race baiter. And there's nothing worse than a race baiter. I think he was bullied. He was a fat kid at school and he was bullied off black people. That's what I think. He was OBE's got an OBE, British historian, writer, broadcaster, presenter, filmmaker. He's a professor of public history. Oh, it makes me sick. It really does make me sick that this is a revered person, and there's loads of you white. It's not just black people who will elevate this guy. All you whiteys out there, you're doing it. You're not even reading your history. You believe everything he says as gospel, and you're obviously politically correct because you're not calling him out for fake history. You know what I mean? Just couldn't make it up, and it infuriates me that we wonder why our communities are so divided when this is just going on all the time. I'm supposed to have some shopping delivered and it's not come yet. Right, I'm just gonna have to mute up a sec because I've got to check where my shopping is. It's not come. Sorry about that. Shopping's not turned up, and it's supposed to be here between 5 and 7. Iceland, but yeah. So I'm against history, and we wonder how come kids growing up now hate Britain. You can understand why by people like David Ossologa and Eddie Reno Lodge, and anyone else who perpetrates the false histories of Mary Seacole and everyone else, and not you know, he's done that big thing for BBC, but there's nowhere on it does it say anything. If they turn the comments off and there's nowhere on it, does it? Oh, sorry, the Ivy Bangle lady's not from Africa. She's from Cyprus. There's nowhere on it, and it's wrong. It's wrong. So, you know, as a National Housing Party, and we're going to have policies about everything, but this is going to be something that I am personally going to take interest in and focus as well. No other group. I don't hear any other group who will say anything about these things or have any kind of policies. You know, it's going to be a policy that, like, the library is going to have to be checked. You know what I mean? It's going to be policy that we're going to have factual things on factual books, like Black and British. It's going to have to be factual. Honestly, you know, if anyone tells you that there was a majority of black people here in the Roman times, are lying. I've told you. There was no black communities until the Windrush days. And if black people were here, they weren't in any big communities, just scattered here and there. And a lot of them were on the coast because of shipping. There wasn't like a black village in the middle of Nottingham or in the middle of Wales. There weren't a black village there where the pastor were black and everyone in the village was like 80% black. There's just nothing like that. It's just scattered. Now, I don't know why they have to tell you that kind of false history. Whether black people came here earlier or later than the Windrush, what you know, it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. We're here now. I'm making an impact because I'm going to be Prime Minister. You know what I mean? So I'll have made an impact as mixed race, person of colour, or whatever you want to say. But yeah, I'm really against this alternate history, and I can't say enough about History Debunked channel. I really can't say enough. I've learned a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and I've learned real truths, even to things that that I believed. I know that are false now. You know what I mean? I've looked, I've seen the evidence. Thank you, Brett. I just seen that come up on. But yeah, so you know, it's got to be said. And I mean, what did my dad do? I'll tell you what my dad did. He was a prominent member of the community. He started up the credit union in Manchester back in the day. He was on the National Lotteries Funding Commission. He was a governor of schools. He was a union man, sticking up for everyone's working class rights. And everyone who I talked about on history, he's done more than all them, and he isn't recognised. He's not an OBE. And I'll tell you what, my dad was much more cleverer than David Ossologa. My dad should have had an OBE, not that David Ossologa, the mixed race ex-fat lad who were bullied off his own kind. You know, nothing in. But you know, I'm looking at doing similar kind of video that he was doing there. But you know, obviously it won't be yet. I can't just do it with my phone. I'll need a proper filming equipment. I know James has a camera, but you know, I want to do some stuff like that. You know, and to do the real Black and British. You know what I mean? That's what I wanted to do, the real Black and British. But again, I've only read passages out of the books that I've talked about, but I've ordered them to. I've ordered Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race, and I've ordered David Ossologa's Black and British, and I've ordered them two books to read them fully because you know me, I'm not satisfied till I've explored it properly, and I need to read them two books. I have looked in passages. I've read a couple of chapters in parts of Black and British when I've been in the library in town and had half an hour or whatever. But you know, oh, my shopping's here. Oh, my shopping's here. Sorry about that. My shopping's here. The lad knows me as well, and he's had to. They'd set up 3 runs from Iceland, and one of the lads didn't turn in. And by that time, all the shopping's been ordered. It has to still go out. So 2 of them have had to do 3 men's jobs today. And he looks sweating and all that lot. But what I'll do, when I go up to Iceland next time, I might throw a few quid tip in for them, because they're good with me here. They know I have to look after my mum. So, you know, otherwise I could do all the shopping myself, but I can't. I've got to look after my mum, and they know that, and I know all the lads. So I might sort them something out. I'll see, get them something Christmas or something like that, getting some treats or a few boxes of chocolates. Because there's about 5 or 6 lads who drive the vans. There's a girl who drives the vans, and they're the ones who always deliver. And I'm always waving to them when they're coming past. But anyway, so it's history. It's all about history. And I want to know the correct history. So I'm going to call it out when it's false. So, you know, that's just a bit about Mary Seacole. If you want to do some research yourself, you can do. If you end up going to the library, look for these books. Look for a book about Mary Seacole. The more than likely she'll be wearing a nurse's uniform. I come across a video as well where Mary Seacole did this, and she sort of like, the woman sort of like denounces Florence Nightingale. You just couldn't make it up. You couldn't make it up, honestly. But, and what they say in a lot of the things is Florence Nightingale was white, a rich white Christian, and, you know, like really putting her down. But honestly, there's in nursing and things like that, anyone here who's a nurse or knows people, Florence Nightingale is the woman. She started the revolution that ended up in nursing, and the things that she started are still used today as gospel in nursing. Just do your research. You must know your British history. So the Florence Nightingale Foundation are in argument with the Mary Seacole Foundation, saying she didn't pioneer nothing, honestly. So this is white liberals against white liberals, but they're all being politically correct. You just couldn't make it up, honestly. You just couldn't make it up. Well, I ought to go to St. Thomas's Church. I ought to go to a plaque and do a video outside and tell you that a lot of what they say is false about Mary Seacole. That's what I want to do. I want to open people's eyes. And when I'm a counsellor, I promise I will be looking at the books you read in school. And you know, you might say, oh, well, Ofsted put them in. There's nothing you can do. There is something I can do if I get everyone petitioning, kicking off about it, and telling them all that they're being told a false history. And that's what I'll do. I'll get petitions up to the school that you have to take these books out. You know what I mean? Otherwise, and I'll just get all the parents and the people who, and I'll show them all this false history and say, look, let's go and sort your school out. Let's get a petition out, and let's get these books out of our schools. And if I manage to do that, I'm doing more than what anyone else is doing. If I manage to become a counsellor, I'm doing more than what anybody else is doing. You know, and you know, I have a lot of haters for whatever reason, but I know where I'm focused on. I know where I'm focused on. I know where I'm focused on, and nobody tells me who I speak to. And that's all it is in this call. Don't speak to that person. Don't speak to that person. Don't speak to that person. That's all we get. And it's just too much division. But I'm not going to be politically correct. I'm not. I refuse to. But anyway, I'm going to go now. Got to get that shopping put away. But thank you for tuning in. Next week, we'll probably go back to the Richard Report next week. But ongoing, we'll have some more history segments in the NHPUK TV. I might be busy the next couple of days, but I can't say anything yet. But I'll let you know. I think we've got a drag queen story time on Saturday, possibly. It's looking like Rochdale's been cancelled. But we'll see. But history debunked. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to like and subscribe to my channel, goes without saying, and like and subscribe to History Debunked. It puts links up to everything he's saying. You can research the information yourself he's saying. He does talk about other things. He talks about now, things going on now. He's mentioned about the Alex Belfield trial. He has done a good video, and I'm going to do, I think I'll do one in between Thursday next week. But polio. Oh, we're all going on about polio. Big John was saying about things like polio over 5 years ago. People have been saying for 10 years what's coming because of all the immigration, the people we have in. Polio's emerged now because the vaccine we had, and there was 2 different vaccines. One wasn't one was effective, but it had side effects, and that's what's come over here with the polio. And it's not just that, there's other diseases. And all this COVID thing, our government now are jumping because they've realised as well, we might as well open the doors and let all the nasty diseases in. Remember when we had COVID, it was the Brazilian variants, the South African variants, the Mexican variants. There wasn't an English variant because we let it all in. We let it all in, and people are unhealthy. Besides that, we've got intergenerational breeding, which creates 38% of 3% of the population is 38% of infant mortality in the entire UK. So 3% of the population have a 38% of all the infant fatalities in the UK. 38%. First cousin marriage in Pakistani. But we'll get on to that another time. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you, Clive. Thank you, Clive. Lovely to see you, sir. Thank you. Oh, Phil Blackpool. Right, nice. That's on Saturday, Phil. Oh, I'll have to get into that. Sunday, the Picton statue is going to be attempted to be pulled down. Oh, well, there's just so much more. But thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. NHPUK TV on a Thursday. If you'd like to donate anything, you can do. We will have a website up and running very soon, I promise you. You can donate through the website. But we're running in local elections. We're confident, we're full of beans, and we know we're going to do well. Good night. Thank you.